Will be coming through quarterfinals 2 and 4 and the resulting semi. The first of those quarterfinals, Chris Hall in the Works Jamin, car number 79. He led from pole position. Third lap, and on the run up to Druids Corner, Oliver Gavin on his Formula 4 debut gets in front. Chris Hall, the Brands Hatch circuit champion, but Oliver Gavin, one of the rising stars of the sport. And Gavin would stay in front until lap 7, when he rather lost a bit of concentration, running wide at clearways and onto the grass. And by went Chris Hall, along with Troy Dunstan, Jason Pollock, Vince Rademacher and Rafael Del Sart. Chris Hall now looking comfortable in front, but behind him, Dunstan and Pollock were racing hard. And they got a little bit too close to each other, also at clearways. This was on lap number 8, and it's Northern Ireland's Jason Pollock who spots a gap on the inside, but the wheels interlock and both head for the gravel. Both were to keep going, but another later spin for Troy Dunstan would leave him well down. But the winner of that quarter-final, Chris Hall from Rademacher, Del Sart, and the recovering Oliver Gavin. The last quarter-final to decide the remaining places in the second semi. The championship favourite Mark Goossens would lead from start to finish, although not entirely comfortably. But down the field, some frantic action. One of the best battles being this one. 128 is the very quick German woman driver Claudia Hurtgen. 179, Andy Charsley, local driver with a great deal of experience at Brands Hatch, but pushed very, very hard on this occasion. This was the race for 5th and 6th. Hurtgen trying for the outside at Paddock, a couple of laps from home, and in so doing forcing the mistake from Charsley, who goes very wide on the run-up to Druids. And behind them, this is how keen the competition is to grab the last remaining qualification places, almost 5 abreast at Paddock, and a pack of 13 cars contesting the same bit of track up to Druids. And the vivid colour scheme of Michael Tegadine heads the charge. Ahead of him, the flying Andrew McCauley, who set fastest lap. But in the pack behind, only 2 qualifying places were available, and it's Martin Sandler of Germany who gets nudged aside. Richard Reynolds and Carl Jarvis go through. But well behind the race winner, Mark Goossens, who held off the stern challenge of Tommy Verlainen to show that he was the man to beat at Brands Hatch.
Well, I think it's a quite technical circuit because we don't have those long straight lines like we have in Truxton or Silverstone or whatever. So it comes down to the driver, I think, and the right setup.
Your quarter-final, you were under a bit of pressure, but you won it. Did you feel comfortable?
Well, I felt comfortable in the race as well, till we had that back marker. And, well, he hit me down in Paddock Bend, so I felt a bit out of balance, so I had to close the gap in the last 2 laps. But I felt quite confident, yeah.
In the quarterfinals, are you really giving it 110% as you might do in the semi-finals or final, or are you holding back just a bit?
No, I don't think so, because, well, every single heat or qualifying, whatever we do, we have to go for it. So it's always 150% even.
Goossens on pole position on the grid for this second semi-final. Alongside him, the experienced Chris Hall, looking for a place in his 4th festival final. And back on row 5, Claudia Hurtgen, after looking so impressive in her quarter-final. So the second semi, 14 to go through. Once again, Tiffany Dell.
28 cars then forming up on the grid for this second 15-lap semi-final, and behind that front row of Goossens and Hall there's the Finnish champion Verlainen, the Dutch champion Vincent Rademacher, the French runner-up Pierre Lemarie, Frenchman Rafael Del Sart, Irish champion David Wright, and young Oliver Gavin, who is back on the 4th row. The field await the green lamp, and Hall makes a good start from the outside, but Goossens matches him off the grid. They head for Paddock again, a very clean start, but it's Goossens that's got into Paddock for that first time, that all-important start as the rest of the field go through. There's Jason Pollock, middle of the pack as they go up to Druids, and Goossens has easily made that start as Verlainen tries the outside around Hall, trying to go the long way round. It doesn't come off. And there, middle of the pack, we see Claudia Hurtgen right behind Oliver Gavin as the field streams down through Graham Hill Bend. The leaders down bottom straight up to Surtees. Very tight indeed, but it's Goossens out front from Hall and Verlainen. Hall even looking up the inside of Goossens there. The Brands Hatch champion trying to show the British champion the way around his home circuit, but it didn't come off, and in fact Goossens now has pulled out a couple of lengths lead over Hall, who has the young Finn Väylänen in his mirrors. Väylänen looks to the outside of the up to Paddock Hill Bend. Rademacher it is in 4th place, but these two close in slightly onto Goossens. Goossens playing it very safe through Paddock at the end of that first lap, making sure he doesn't make any silly mistakes. Hall has to shut the door on Väylänen. Väylänen looking up the inside. It wasn't to be. Hall chases Goossens. Down the hill they go, the rest of the field streaming round the top of this famous Druids Corner, down that hill, a long bottom straight. Goossens holds sway out front, Hall in his wheel tracks, and Väylänen thinking of another way to get around the outside of him. Rademacher a couple of car lengths behind. Midfield, that's Andrew McCauley who'd started, and he punts Pollock. That's Jason Pollock. Well, maybe Troy Dunstan will feel there's some justice in the world after all. I don't know, but certainly that's the end of young Jason Pollock's festival. But up front, Väylänen looks up the inside of Hall. These three slightly clear of Rademacher, and that's Delsart in 5th place with his French compatriot Le Marie on the grass. Well, that's French friendliness for you. Sarté pushing Le Marie onto the grass, and Gavin trying to make the most of that. In fact, Gavin going around the outside of Le Marie. So Gavin moves up a place, and Le Marie pushed onto the grass by his countryman Delsart. Delsart now having Gavin on the grass. Gavin looking up the inside for Surtees. Sarté certainly shutting the door wherever he can. That's Claudia Hurtgen now challenging. Hurtgen looking up the inside of Le Marie. So Le Marie indeed is pushed another place down. So Le Marie loses 2 places in that lap. 1 to Gavin. Gavin now inside Sart. So Delsart getting pushed backwards. Oliver Gavin, a tremendous. This is his first Formula Ford event. He's won the Formula First Championship, and he goes through. And Hurtgen, Claudia Hurtgen, a tremendous dive up the inside. Has it paid off? Sart goes out wide. Now Hurtgen pushes. She pushes Sart wide one side, then shuts the door on Le Marie. Le Marie on the grass for the second lap running. But the young German girl, only 20-year-old, she's sorted out the Frenchman. Gavin, along as Le Marie now tries to get past his friendly Frenchman Delsart, but he's not going to let him through. And out front, Goossens now with a bit of breathing space from Hall, who's coming under increasing pressure from Väylänen. A Finnish champion who was drawn in the same heat as Goossens. He shadowed Goossens in the heat and the quarter-final. Here's the French battle, the all-French battle. It's Delsart is having a queue of cars behind. Behind Le Marie, that's the Irish champion David Wright now trying to move in on the 2 Frenchmen. And behind him, that's McCauley. McCauley getting on the inside of David Wright, but he has the door shut on him. McCauley is the man who this year, and there he's pushing. Someone else trying to get us. Tommy Antolainen, the Finnish driver, another Finnish driver who has actually got inside McCauley. McCauley pushed down a place, or has he? No, he hasn't. McCauley holds that inside line for Graham Hill Bend, and McCauley, who was third in this year's British Championship, is moving up through the field after starting right at the back of his heat. Le Marie now looks up the inside of Delsart. This time he's got past his fellow Frenchman. Delsart hanging on round the outside, but he's not going to do it this time. Le Marie takes that place, and David Wright, the Irishman, also moving up a place. So Delsart getting pushed slowly backwards from about 4th place to 8th over the last few laps. David Wright now takes up the challenge of Le Marie. Through Paddock, down that dip, a very steep hill it is. It doesn't look so much on this camera. There's McCauley moving up past Delsart. So Delsart getting pushed back more and more. McCauley moves up. Also looking up the inside was Antolainen. So a lot of overtaking, but up front, Oliver Gavin, who made that move earlier on, has moved forward very fast. He's now caught up with Vincent Rademacher. So Oliver Gavin on the move. He's closed the gap to the Dutch champion. He'll want to get by as soon as possible and try and catch the battle for 2nd and 3rd between Hall and Väylänen. Slipstreaming along the straight, up to Paddock Hill Bend. Gavin looks up wide, cuts inside, a beautifully executed manoeuvre. It looks so easy when it works, but really, he's set the Dutch champion up. There's Väylänen, tries once more for that narrowing gap up the inside, but Chris Hall, the 31-year-old Brands champion, showing the young Finn a thing or two about Brands Hatchers. Gavin now straight away puts some daylight between himself and the Dutch champion. Väylänen looks again, he's trying to rattle Hall, but Hall knows his way around this circuit. He's champion of Brands Hatch, and he's going to show this young Finnish boy how good he is. Oh, and another one off. That's 34, Jonathan Kane, and an unknown assailant. and not very happy indeed. Well, there's going to be and the marshal having to get in between those two marshals, not only for safety but also to look after the boy. Here we see what happened, and that's Kane. Oh, and well, I can understand it was in fact 130 Jason Yeomans, and really one can understand why Jason was none too pleased. Vealainen, though, now attacking Hall again, looking for the outside line on top straight. He's slipstreamed up, he's looking for the high, wide line. He'll then try and cut inside on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend, get on the inside for Druids, but Hall straight away moves to the right to defend that position. So all the time, Goossens is getting away in front, and the battle behind these two is actually beginning to close in, with Gavin chasing after these two for all he's worth. So Hall being very defensive now. Second place in the semi-final is going to be on the second row of the grid for the final. He'd be happy with that, but Vealainen wants more. Vealainen also wants that second row of the grid for the final. In the background, the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th rages on. We see, in fact, Gavin's lost that place, so Rademacher back in 4th, but the battle is for second we're watching. And that's against Chris Hall, the veteran Brands Hatch man, against young Tommy Vealainen, who's having a tremendous run. Starting their 11th lap out of 15, Vealainen needs to do something in these closing laps to move up that position. There he's pulling tighter. No, he just can't get the nose up the inside. In the background, it's Rademacher, Hurtgen, Gavin. In fact, the German girl getting ahead of Gavin. Round Druids, Hall still holding Vealainen so close. These cars haven't been further apart than this for the entire 11 laps of this semi-final so far. And Hall having to look in both mirrors at the same time to make sure the young Finnish boy, he obviously won't try anything too stupid, he wants to be in the final. But here, this battle for 4th is catching this. Hurtgen looks to the inside of Rademacher. Gavin obviously has moved back. He must have made a mistake. He was up to 4th. He's now back to 6th place and will be cursing whatever mistake he made. The battle along the top straight, slipstreaming. Hurtgen has already shown she can overtake. She's done very well. She was only 10th on the grid in her heat, so she's really been moving up all weekend. A tremendous drive from the young German girl, but Gavin looks up the inside. It's not to be. She's looking in her mirrors. Gavin trying all the way around the outside. Hurtgen holding the inside. Has Gavin done it? He's right round the outside, down the hill to Graham Hill Bend, and Gavin, it paid off. It's a difficult manoeuvre. It can be done, and Oliver Gavin really inexperienced in Formula Ford terms, but showing a tremendous turn of speed at this festival. Goossens now well out on his own in the lead, but this battle for second place still as close. I think Vealainen's nose cone is glued to Hall's gearbox. He's trying to get the slipstream as much as possible, stay tucked in behind, then snap out of line on the approach to Paddock Hill Bend. You can't get closer than that. It's tremendous Formula Ford racing. Of course, Vealainen, a new Finnish name, both JJ Leto and Mika Hakkinen sprung to prominence in this Formula Ford festival. And here we see Oliver Gavin has moved back into 4th place. So Gavin giving himself a lot of work at this festival. He moves to the front, he moves back, and now he's back forwards into 4th place. As I was saying though, Tommy Vealainen, a new Finnish name. Both JJ Leto and Mika Hakkinen made their name at this Formula Ford festival, and if Vealainen thought he was going to be in Grand Prix racing in about 4 or 5 years' time, he'd be delighted. But right now, he'd be delighted if he could get by Chris Hall and get on the second row of the grid for the final. He's closer than ever. Hall moves this way and the other. Vealainen now has slightly got that momentum onto the straight. Can he get up alongside? Up to Paddock Hill Bend. Hall holds down. It's the last lap. Vealainen now. He's only got a few corners. Druids Hill Bend coming up. He's going to look to the inside. No, he's not. He's going up the outside. He's going to try the long outside line. A tremendous effort. He's through. He's round. No, he slides wide. He just took too much speed into the corner. He had to scrub the speed off, going too quickly. Chris Hall holds on to that second place he's fought so valiantly to keep. Behind, Gavin is closing in 4th. This battle for second has allowed Gavin to close up. He won't catch them before the end. Hall takes the inside line. Goossens is well on his way to winning the semi-final. Hall is going to hold on to second place. Vealainen a tremendous 3rd place. Behind him, the battle rages, and Gavin's going to be 4th. Vealainen a final lunge across the line, but it's not to be.
Another victory then for Mark Goossens, who's looked so composed through the heats, the quarter-finals and the semi-final. Chris Hall beating Tommy Vealainen in that fine race for second. Those top 6 all contenders for the title, although Warren Hughes would have pole position ahead of Goossens in the final. But Goossens was looking good, and the Belgian flag was flying bravely at Brands Hatch.